Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to our witnesses. Thank you for your service to the nation. As several senators have raised, and as you're well aware, Secretary Mayorkas and Director Wray, there's significant apprehension, concern, fear in the Jewish community in Georgia and nationwide, as well as in the Muslim community, as the domestic political discourse has become so polarized, as various hate groups and factions have expressed hateful speech, and as threats have been made. You've both, over the last year, and I commend and thank you for this, been highly responsive to my office as we've worked to connect your personnel with institutions and communities in Georgia who require the forms of assistance and counsel that you each respectively offer. Secretary Mayorkas, in your case, helping communities and institutions to mitigate and understand threats. Director Wray, in your case, helping communities and institutions have a point of contact with federal law enforcement in the event they receive threats, and applying your investigative tools to investigate threats. Given the heightened level of concern and fear and threat at this moment, I would just like a commitment briefly from each of you that you will continue to make yourself available to my office and to Georgians who require your help.
Most certainly, Senator.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Director Wray, I was able to help secure through the Project Safe Neighborhoods Grant Program, the DOJ program that helps coordinate U.S. attorneys' offices and state and local law enforcement, some additional resources to Georgia, which of course is your home state, and we're proud of that, in order to fight violent crime, in particular in Middle Georgia and in the Chattahoochee Valley. I have had a great experience working with your Atlanta field office and your personnel in Georgia. Will you commit that the FBI and your personnel and teams in Georgia will remain responsive to the needs of local and state law enforcement agencies as violent crime and gun crime continue to take a serious toll?
Absolutely. For us, violent crime is a major priority, and including in Georgia. There have been a number of very significant, very impactful violent crime takedowns in the state just since the time we've been engaged in this ongoing dialogue. I know, for example, down in the southern part of the state in Brunswick, our task force down there arrested something like 74 ghost-faced gangsters, and sure enough, within about 3 months, the Brunswick PD was able to report about 50% fewer fentanyl overdoses, which is a pretty significant impact. But we've had huge takedowns like that really all across the state, up in Athens, in Adel, in the middle southern part of the state, obviously in the Atlanta area, and I'm a big fan of Project Safe Neighborhoods, having been heavily involved in the first version of it when I served in the Bush administration.
Well, I see you're well prepared to brief on Georgia, and I appreciate that.
It's close to
as
home.
Always. Yes. Secretary Mayorkas, the Nonprofit Security Grant Program for synagogues, for mosques, for HBCUs, it's clear to me that there's a need for more resources because we have institutions in Georgia who are applying. Their applications have merit. There's a real need. The program's oversubscribed. That's not your fault. We allocate the funds. But will you please commit to working with the OMB and the Congress to try to right-size that program so that there are sufficient resources for the institutions who require that additional security support?
Yes, I will, Senator.
Thank you. Director Wray, in September, Senator Blackburn and I launched a bipartisan inquiry to understand how FBI's capacity to investigate child sexual abuse can be augmented, particularly given the alarming and disturbing growth in online child sexual exploitation, concern that the scope of the threat may be outpacing the Bureau's ability to respond, and we have not yet received a response to the September 13th letter that we sent to the FBI. Will you please commit to get that back to me in short order?
We'll certainly get that. I'm not sure the exact timeline, but we'll of course get you a response to your letter as quickly as we can. Okay. Certainly this is an area that's of great importance, and we, for example, I had something called Operation Cross Country, which was a 2-week operation that we did all across the country that located, something like just in that 2-week period, 59 child victims of sex trafficking, 59 additional actively missing kids, arrested hundreds of predators. If you look at the year overall, we're rescuing thousands of kids from exploitation and rounding up thousands of predators. And I am very concerned that if some of the current budget proposals that are swirling around up here were to go into effect, you'd have fewer predators arrested, and fewer kids rescued.
And Director Wray, that leads to my next question. According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or NCMEC, which, as you well know, is tasked by Congress to receive reports of missing and trafficked children from state and local agencies across the country. In Georgia, between 2018 and 2022, there were nearly 1,800 reports of missing foster youth. And it is well understood by the Department of Health and Human Services and by law enforcement that foster youth who go missing are at acute risk of trafficking and other forms of abuse and exploitation. Can you please characterize the FBI's efforts and understanding of the particular threats posed to foster youth from human traffickers, sex traffickers, and others? And will you commit to working with me to enhance the FBI's ability to locate and free children who may be trapped by criminals?
Let me follow back up with you in more detail on the specific issue of foster youth as a particularly vulnerable victim set. But I will tell you that we work very closely with NCMEC. I've been over there myself. I consider them a very valuable part of this whole response to the threat. But it is a major problem across this country. That we have kids, even in this day and age, being victimized and exploited by predators really all across the country.
And NCMEC does a great job. They are a highly credible organization. And I'd like to get that data in front of you so you're aware of the scope of the threat to these foster children in Georgia. Will you take a look at it when I send it over to you?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Director Wray.